Saturday afternoon, time to learn the human flag. We're going through a few prep exercises just to get the body in the right position, and we're going to see if we can redefine some impossibles.
We did handstand, and we did a vertical handstand. Today this afternoon we're going to do a horizontal handstand. So the shape, everything applies the same in terms of the shape you need to make with your body. We've got to be overhead, we've got to have good alignment, we want to try and be nice and straight. Things that are going to want to go wrong: shoulders are going to be tight, we're going to have that rib cage pop up, we're going to lose that structural integrity, lose that alignment. With the strength, you can get away sometimes in your handstand and actually still balance. In the human flag, when we lose this position, our strength then goes out of the window because we just don't have the anchor, particularly in the bottom arm, to anchor down, which we'll go through the reasons and how to build that up. If we lose that structural, the alignment, and therefore the structural integrity, we're staying in the impossible box for us. Yeah. So there's three things that we'll go through for it. Once we've got that shape, and everyone worked on that this morning. Bottom arm needs to push. The top arm pulls. Those two things, two opposite forces, create torque. It's the torque that leverages you up. Once you can get that triangle with the hands torquing up, it's then a case of can I connect the hip on the top side to this shoulder that's pulling. The hip is then pulling up against this torque. That's what keeps the legs out. You don't try to lift your legs up, you're trying to get a connection on this top side of your trunk, external obliques, trying to pull that hip up towards it. As long as your legs are connected to your hip, they'll stay there. There we go. So push and pull with good alignment. So I don't want to be in this type of shape. I've got to open up this bottom shoulder. So if this shoulder's tight at the bottom, I'm going to end up here. And I'm not going to be able to get the power down through that bottom shoulder. So the movement and your mobility in that shoulder, just like a handstand, is really important. Okay, so pushing with the bottom, pulling with the top, and then squeeze in.
Don't clap yet, don't clap yet. Wait, hold it.
That's my first clap. That's good. So it really is as easy as that. No, Tim often says when we do workshops, I tell him off because he says it's easy. But when you start and we had some conversations about when we first saw it, you go, is that Photoshop? I was talking to Greg and I was going, I can't remember the first time I saw someone do it in person. I don't know when that was. I actually would like to remember that. But
I remember the first photo of it I saw.
Yeah, but I don't know about seeing, but then you think that it's like Photoshop, and then, so when you try and break it down, and one of the first things, you was trying to learn the handstand, I'd seen a human flag and wanted to learn it purely because I just thought it'd be cool, and I was like, that's me on holidays. My wife hates me. That's another story, but it also relates to that. So we literally typed what everyone does on YouTube, how to do the human flag. And one of the videos we stumbled across was a guy literally looked like he gave his phone to his mate or his missus and went, film this. This is how you do a human flag, and just did what I did without. I at least tried to say what we were doing with those different parts, but just did it. And we went, well, that doesn't help us know how to do it. So we literally just went, right, we've got to then break this thing down, just try and understand what's the shape I'm trying to make, how am I going to apply forces in those areas, and what's the right position I need to get my body in. And then which parts of those, so we broke it down to those three things. How do I then work on those three things separately? How do I then bring those three things together? And then I might have some sort of success in that.
There is a skill acquisition. We talk about handstand being a major skill acquisition. At the moment, you don't know how to push and pull maximally with enough force at the same time, because we don't do it. It's just not an exercise which you've taught yourself, and it's not like it's a just don't push pull. You can do that. It's like properly maximal effort push pull. So you just have to wire that up a little bit, and that's the big thing about the connection. And we'll talk about progressions in a while. But as we go through this, just bear in mind that the success that you're going to have in your human flag training is going to be based on you finding a position which you can train in. We did it wrong, but we would come in and be like that. 20 minutes, train flag today, whereas what we should have been doing is that for 10 seconds, 6 times, and then we should have done it again the next week because you just, again, like the handstand, find a position where you can get time on task.
And like with the first workshop we ran like a series over 8 weeks or 7 weeks, and it took us, my sort of recollection or my notes are, it took us 3 months to get a photo of a human flag, and my first ever photo of a human flag is on the website, and it was literally a photo. I was happy, but it was probably about 1 second. It was like, I got it, and then it's gone. And that took us about 3 months. We taught some, there was a group of 10, and I think 3 of them within that 7 week period held it for probably about 4 or 5 seconds. Way better. So half the time, loads more progression because they didn't make all the mistakes that we did, and that's exactly what we're trying to constantly always do. Luckily, I make a lot of mistakes, so we get to learn what those mistakes are. Cool. So a couple of things that just, when it feels, firstly is, you've seen us just do it, Greg was doing them yesterday, you know it's not impossible. Yeah, so the first thing is, I know you think it is, but you've seen it, so there's got to be a little bit of a belief, a little bit of a switch in your brain that, I'm not saying today, but it might be today, but it can be done. Yeah, so that's the first step. It is a mental thing. Whereas with the handstand, you all think you can do a handstand, and you get frustrated because you think you're not worried about not being able to do it. It's just, why can't I do it yet? With the flag, it's in a little bit of a different area where you go, that looks really hard, so I'm happy to believe that I can't do it, and then that protects me from trying to then try and do it. Whereas make that mental commitment if you want to. And then the other thing is, so as Tim says, push and pull is new. We don't push and pull with opposite arms unless you do archery. Archery's boring. And archery isn't straight up. That arm's straight, but this one's bent. And a lot of the time, we did a little bit of, everyone noticed that when we did those frog stands with the arms bent, and we went straight arms, everyone went, crikey, straight arms hard. Because we don't do a lot. If you would have come to us and you've never do any bent arm stuff and you always do straight arm stuff, you'd be the other way around. Yeah, but we don't do a lot of straight arm stuff. The bottom arm push, we're not used to being in that straight arm pushing position, and it's also in the most vulnerable position for the shoulder, that bottom side. When Tim got a series of shoulder dislocations from a rugby career, when we first tried to do human flag, he said, mate, I'm not sure about this bottom arm. He's like, that is basically overhead, externally rotated. He goes, this is where I pop my shoulder out. He'd popped it out doing a snatch on an Olympic lifting workshop.
With no weight.
But I didn't know, like, we'd only met a few months before that, so I was very much in my rugby background of like, mate, just crack on, like, we're doing this flag thing, like, I'm not worried. Like, if I knew how badly he dislocated his shoulder in the past, I'd have probably we would have never even started this. So that's a vulnerable position for it. Stability wise, can you get there through your mobility? But when you can, the shoulder is thinking, your brain is going like, ooh, this is a bit dodgy, Jacko, come back in here. So that's one thing. And then the other thing about it is, or where we come unstuck, for some of the things, if you think about what we might get good at with our pull-ups, we can get good in our pull-ups, and a lot of people will do a lot of their pull-ups here, where I'm never actually reaching that end range position where the arm is straight. And I'm not actually very good at engaging through the scapula rather than through lat and bicep. Yeah, we had a chat about you talking about pulling and pulling through bicep more. So it might be that you're strong in different areas than we need to actually access when we are going with this straight arm position. Yeah, so we're going to build it up super small from the bottom, and everyone will get to a certain level. We'll look at how do we go to the other levels, and then we'll wrap it up. Someone might do one. You never know. Okay, so let's look at just we need to prep up a little bit. So we can do a lot of the stuff we did yesterday morning, and a little bit of what we did for handstands will apply because we're saying we're in this position, same as handstand. So let's grab some floor space. First thing to actually do. It's come up a lot. We were talking about lat this morning because we've got the bars. We're going to do a little bit of work on that. So we're going to go into just one little mobility drill for the shoulder, focusing on the lat before we get into the. Do you want to go? Before we go into some more sort of activation work. Yeah. Do you want to go? Hang in. Yeah.
I'm still going to cut it.
So, ideally, thumb pointed upwards, So remember what Tim said right from at the beginning about the lat, where it wants to take you into that handcuff position. Back arch, shoulder internally rotated. If we go with the thumb pointing upwards, you can grab any one of the bars, or the ring's a bit too hard, but any one of the bars. So we've got the thumb pointing up, so we've got some external rotation of the humerus. We're trying to put the lat in its longest position. So he's sitting back and trying to round the lower back rather than arching. That's that shortened position. Okay, and then we've got these 2 points where it's gonna connect, or it's gonna in the body. Yeah. So what we want to try and do is take those two things as far away from each other as possible. Once you're sat in there, then just try. We're not going to just hang out there statically, because we're going to try and put some real force down a bit later. So we don't want to be static. We want to be just trying to grease the joint a little bit, move in and out, have a feel around. If you start to get this. Start to play around with this hip position, you'll start to feel how tight the lat can get down, lower down here, rather than just higher up behind the back of the shoulder. Yep. If you want to really feel that, if I can be sat in here, if I really want to focus on that hip, I can take that hip further away from this side by taking the arm further through and even coming around into there. Still trying to make sure you don't arch the back, keep the bum tucked underneath, but then you'll start to feel much lower down. Start to loosen off that guy so we can actually get into a nice shape here for that bottom arm. Yep.
Next one, guys, we're going to go through is just that. So if we think about, we'll break it down to what the arms are doing. So top arm needs some range of movement. We're going to crank it down. The bottom arm is going to be pushing. We're going to get you to train both sides. So just as a real gentle warm up for the push down, we're going to progress this exercise. It's exactly the same kind of position. We get to revisit this activation with the midsection. Because the flag's a lateral movement, what I'm going to need to do is spend some time into shape here. I'm going to have to start to get these obliques working, either side to do it. This is a position we're going to scale in a minute, but all I want you guys to start off with, just let's get warmed up, just work through, out, find your balance point, hold. You can work back here, let's just go push up, and then rotation out each time. Just like go 6 to 8. Start to just feel that shoulder moving through.
We just want to revisit one of the exercises we did yesterday on this, where if you want to, you can bend your knees a little bit. Where we're going to come and rotate round, get used to pushing that away, and then rather than staying here, which is where we're going to try and get nice and strong, a lot of the time with this bottom arm, we just don't commit to actually pushing through, so that the head of that humerus can drive straight into my body. We come a little bit here and it's shooting out the back. So that one that we did on Saturday where we came and we went all the way around is going to encourage us to go that bit further, get some of that activation of the mid-lower tract and rhomboids at the back where you're pushing up and then come through again. It's a really nice another prep exercise for that bottom shoulder, getting comfortable of opening up. We get a little bit of stretch across the front of the chest when you're there. We're also getting activation of keeping those, trying to draw those shoulder blades, retracting them back. Yeah, so how do we go? We can go one way and then roll back to the other. So let's have sort of like 5-6 reps of that. Let's then just scale this bottom arm position that we've sort of always partly prepping in there. Do you want to do this as one or do the two things together? This one. Do two. Yeah. So we'll show you the bottom arm and then the top arm. What we're going to look at. So we'll continue with this floor based movement. This bottom arm. When we talk about opening up, we really mean that we've got to get this shoulder externally rotated to the arm, rotating outwards, thumb sort of pointing backwards. When it's on the bar, it's going to be turned all the way down. The thumb is going to be going down. I'm not going to grab it here. Yeah. So when I'm on the floor, it gives you some clearance of the shoulder, so you can actually get into that nice true overhead position. If you stay tight in here, we can stay wound up. So I'm really going to open him up. So this sort of side plank position, I'm going to try and make it real specific for my human flag. So I'm going to turn the hand outwards, so my fingers are pointing behind me a little bit more, just getting some of that external rotation. And rather than being sat with my shoulder right on top of my wrist, think about what this shape is like in the human flag. I'm creating this triangle with my hands. So to create the bottom triangle, bottom line of the triangle with that hand turned out, I want to see whether, rather than being up here, can I take my feet a bit further away and start to take that further and further and make more of an angle at that bottom arm. The idea as well, rather than being slumped in here and resting, I've got to drive myself away, drive that hip up, push down hard through the floor into with the shoulder. So I'm really active here. Get that shoulder away from your ear you shouldn't be able to, it's not one of them. Yeah, that is what will happen. Yeah, happy with that? And then the hanging based movement, I'll do here, is going to be active hang. We're going to see whether we can take that into a single arm active hang. So we talked about being, do you want to come to do so to show people from behind? Talk about being with straight arms. We need that, if that bottom arm is going to be straight, to keep that structure and integrity of the triangle, that top arm needs to be straight. But a lot of the time what we want to do, yes Timbo, maybe I'll just that was it. Is what it wants to do is we're used to doing pull-ups, we want to bend at the elbow, bicep wants to get involved, whereas we need the pull to come from these mid-lower traps. So we start in dead hang. Before we even worry about what's going to go on here, we make sure he's got his tummy on to keep that nice alignment. And then he's got his shorts are hungry, gets his bottom. So he's got that, that's going to stabilise and keep the trunk in nice alignment. Then the body will want to still let that rib cage pop up and arch the back. So we've got to use his core to fight against that, particularly if we're weak back here. So if we're struggling with that retraction and rhomboid and that mid-lower trap work to drive the scap downwards, we're going to find that the body wants to arch, and we're trying to fight against that. So Tim's good, so he's going to have that set, and what he's going to do is he's going to start dead hang, ears are by the shoulders, and then he drives the shoulder blades down, and then we see massive separation from the ear to the shoulder. Okay, that is him going from a slack position to an active position, and that is all coming from movement of the shoulder blade. There's nothing happening up here. Yeah, and when he's really good, he goes to the top. He then sees whether gradually can take one finger away at a time. So can he hang on one side and maintain that position? If he loses his shape, if you lose your shape and so he goes active, he tries to stay active, comes over to one side. If he loses the active position, ear goes by the shoulder, he'll then start to unwind. So you've lost that, you're not creating tension through the shoulder girdle. Yeah? So we're going to try, and so that might be for you, if you find it difficult, it might be that you've got your single arm with two little fingers on or one finger on. Yeah, you can build that up. We could go with a band also, but to start with, just see whether you can actually, see if you can go one hand all together. If you can't, use one or two fingers for that.
One cue from me, snap the bar. So when you're hanging, that position, we need to be thinking the same thing as what we did when we did the handstand. Shoulders here, where the elbows go, forward, and trying to create that shape, because it's winding the shoulder into stable position, externally rotating the shoulder. So as you come into those shapes, try and feel about holding those elbows forward and down. It's Saturday afternoon, time to learn the human flag. Going through a few prep exercises just to get the body in the right position, and then we're going to see if we can redefine some impossibles. Guys, the flag is really entirely built mostly on the top arm active hang. So if you're struggling with a single arm active hang, it's really going to be, that's the crux of it. Because the more torque you can pull down on that, or the more power you can pull down on that top hanging arm, the more we can create the connection with the hip, and then we can hold it in. So if that one goes, we're going to lose it. The bottom arm actually benefits from the fact, like Jacko was saying, if we open the shoulder up, we can line the humerus up, the bone in the upper arm here, straight into the body of the rib cage, pretty much, of the shoulder. So that's creating just structural stability as a result of the bone driving into body mass. If we then put the arm out into this position, the shoulders or the bone in the humerus is pointing out behind me, so I've got to do a lot of work. You can human flag in that position, it is possible. But the bottom arm, if you can get it right, is an anchor, and it drives into that shoulder position. The top arm then just uses that stability to create the leg lift. When we talk about shoulder health, we talk a lot about keep the shoulder in or keep the ball in the socket. And there's some real benefit of just, if you don't feel very confident, and this was the one where I thought I was going to dislocate. This is when we first started, that would have been my position. So I'm keen on areas to give you guys some more fine motor control and some confidence and stability in different ranges, because we're going to try and take our feet off the floor and just prime yourself to be able to control some of the chaos that's potentially going to come. And that doesn't mean it sounds like a nasty thing, but your shoulder isn't going to know what to do. So you can do these from a real simple progression, but just to build some strength, you can go kettlebell. If anyone's had a shoulder injury or done something similar, let it sit on the back. You don't have to force it away, you can let the shoulders sit in, but then can we just start to create some small circles, just find out where your end of range of movement is. And if you find those and where that little bit of twitch comes, we just started to develop a little bit more control. And you can, I've done these for a while, if we want to, challenge it the opposite way again, so now I'm having to work much harder just to do it, and then if I want to really challenge myself, I can not look at it and start to get a feel of where my shoulder is in space. So developing that kinesthetic awareness and teaching the shoulder how to control the joint better. And then even though it's the bottom arm which is pushing in that flag position, we could load that shape even more. So one, I'm putting more force down the bottom arm, but I've also got that opportunity then to play around and start to challenge some of that stability. By this top arm moving, I've now got to do more corrective work with that bottom arm. So I'm getting 2 hits. Because of our background in from a sports perspective, program space is like prime real estate for us, because we want to do the least amount of training to get the most amount of change. So if I can pick an exercise which is doing 2 things for me, I'm putting that in the program. If it does 3 or 4, it's definitely in the program. If it does 1, it's got to be really good, because it's taking up space that I can use for other things. The kettlebell's going from 8, 10, 12. If you, I'll leave that there. We can play around it later if you guys want to have a go with it. But just some ideas around some of that shoulder stability, which is going to help in anything you do in calisthenics. Yeah. That vertical pull-in is a really good move. It's not that that isn't right, but getting that straight pull position is where a lot of your hang is going to come from. So when we do muscle ups, we don't want to be pulling in that position, because you're going to end up with a bar, the chest pulling upwards, where we want to be able to go straight in strong and pull backwards on that line. So the connection, if everything is straight, we keep more force in the chain. If I'm losing something here, imagine it being like a caravan or a car with a caravan on the back driving too quickly. I've got this whole kind of trailer that I'm trying to pull, whereas if I can clamp it all down, it fixes it, and the body can then move more effectively on that line. So for example, if you were to take that position,
nice, Jem.
Flag, it's going to be
yeah, nice, Jem.
So you can keep it tight. Just going to line it up.
Yeah, that is awesome.
Well done, Jem.
We have to move out.
It's the single arm line. Yeah. We got 'em on sound, guys?
Yeah. That's it.
Nice.
But I don't think
That's it, yeah.
not really very good in the shoulders.
Or
When you do the twisting,
is that single arm active hang. If it isn't active and it's just loose and the shoulder's way up by the ear, there's nothing for that oblique, that hip to pull against. It's almost like, you know, when you run in sand, it feels so hard because the thing you're pushing on is just moving and dissipating all that energy. So we need something strong here to pull that side up to. Once we've got that, what we need to start, so once we can actually hang on one arm, we need to start to then actually make that connection, and then we'll add in the bottom arm finally after that. One of the good things about, if you're finding like the grip and the hang in difficult, it's a great thing to train. We get a lot of rotator cuff activation from gripping and hanging, so squeeze the bar as much as you can. When Tim's talking about trying to snap it, so we're trying to get some external rotation going at the same time. We actually test rotator cuff health with a grip strength, like a grip dynamometer. If someone's grip strength is down, even if they're not injured yet, it can be a sign that you may start having niggle around your rotator cuff. So if it's a test for it, doing more, increasing your grip strength is going to have a positive effect on your rotator cuff, which is going to help with your shoulder health and all of everything you're going to do with your shoulder. So once we've got our, make sure you can see it. Once we've got our single arm hang, it's then looking, can I, whilst maintaining that, can I pull my legs up by just pulling from the hip? If I'm dead hang here, I'm like a salmon, yeah? I've got to crank that in and then pull up. And I feel all of that through this side angle here. Straight away, you're going to feel that activation. When we take you into a horizontal position, you're going to really feel that crank on, and it's one of those things that just very rarely gets trained, so it's all new to all of us when we do it for the first time. Once we've got that, the other one I want to just show us is then how do we bring in the bottom arm, and we can do it where we play a little game with our friend Isaac Newton again and his gravity that he invented, where we're not going to fight all of it in one go, we're going to come at an angle. So if I do my flag on that vertical pole, I have the opportunity, if I'm strong enough, to be straight out horizontally. If I put my top arm further along the top bar, away from it, when I crank all that in, I'm going to be at an angle rather than fully out horizontally. Real nice progression where you go dun, 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 1 little centimetre at a time towards the horizontal bar. And if you're strong enough, you'll gradually, that angle will start to come up more towards horizontal. It gives you a great opportunity to do those 3 things. So, top arm, active hang, squeeze your obliques, push away with that bottom arm.
And feel what happens in that position, crank that top arm in, really give it a nudge, and you'll feel, like you nudge that, and then with the obliques as well, like connect those, the hip and the shoulder together, you just feel the feet raise, and that's it, that's the job. Then it's just strength in that position.
We talk about strength until I had a good conversation with Fran earlier before about we were talking about a particular body part, like so Fran's done bodybuilding, where until he feels like he can activate that muscle, it doesn't feel like I'm going to get the strength and the muscle bulk out of it. It's exactly right. Until I can make that connection from my brain to the muscles and the sequence that I'm trying to do, which is a pull, a push, and that hip position, until I can create that signal from the brain to those, which is the skill acquisition part to it. It's not skill like playing the piano or doing a handstand, but it's still a patterning that we need to get down. Once we've got that, then we can see, am I strong enough? And then also I can actually build up effectively until you can actually make that connection. So if today you go, felt it, just in an easier position, felt it, right, but I know what it feels like, now I can then actually start to ramp up the strength through it. Do make sure you train both sides. Yeah, otherwise you'll end up like walking around funny. One will feel better, and you'll say, well, this one hurts, Jacko, so I've got a bit of a shoulder because of this. So which one, where should I put that, the top or the bottom? Well, the bottom needs to push maximally, the top needs to pull maximally, so they both need to be working maximally. So one might feel better than the other, but it doesn't really matter how you need to train both sides either way. Yeah? But just don't worry if one side feels better than the other. Don't do what I did, and then just train that one a lot more. Again, learn from my mistake. So let's have a go. This is way easier than you think.
Yeah, everyone should. If you do a hang, you'll be able to get this.
Yeah. It's easier than a single arm hang because you've got something on this other side to support you. The push out is way easier because you're not horizontal. The pull part is the hard part of it. Yeah. And you're going to feel those obliques go woo, light up. And you'll be like, oh, that's what my obliques are.
Okay, so these are just going to squeeze. Try and shorten that distance.
Am I going one single arm?
Yeah.
This is just too stiff.
The bars are quite sore actually, like smallish bars.
I'm going to go this way again, so this way.
Yeah, good. Yeah, so that we feel, that creates leg lift. Good, try the side. Grip.
I don't know, sweating. I'm being sweating. I don't want to my...
Yeah, that's good. You can have one which feels better.
Yeah. I think I'll get my gloves on. Definitely.
Feel those guys.
Well, I think it's just me. One arm feels, one hand feels.
Crank that, so that's not coming first, get that top arm active, that's it, now go.
I think it's just one side.
Have a go on that. Those bars are probably best for it.
You can put your arm on put your arm on the pillar.
Nice, brother.
That all day.
On this one.
So you get feel the oblique activation first. Squeeze and hold that shoulder in the socket. Nice.
Your top arm is very
well gripped. So now you just you can stay up there. Yeah. So now try and do that that same thing, but just use that bottom arm just to push yourself away. Yeah. Fingers pointing down. You can slide.
Right. You can't slip. You're not going to slip down. Slip down forward.
So just crank it in, tummy nice and tight. Take your hand off. Put it onto the bar. Fingers down. Point those down. That's it. Yeah. That's it. Try. Hold. Good. The same thing. You try the side? Sit around if you want.
Oh yeah, but then you can see my face going.
It's fine, don't worry.
So what I haven't done
Right start. That is the right way.
Good.
Nice.
I go into an active hold position, what I'm doing is hanging on a stable scapula, which is retracted and depressed. So the shoulder is now in a stable position. I'm also pulling the head of the humerus into the socket. So I've got my shoulder blade here, I've got the head of the humerus. By active hanging, I've got those in there, and that's where I want them when I'm going to do anything.
Because we're doing quite a lot of passive hang for grip strength, but basically you can get some shoulder strength training at the same time.
Yeah.
We noticed that you two, when you were going into at first to get that active hang and that scapular pull without actually driving up, it was like we had to wake up the mid-low trap a little bit to get that action.
I've seen people go through sets of pull-ups, and like Jacko said, they stay in that kind of half range, and then if they get tired, they go, I should have a rest, and they go to dead hang, they can't get back out.
Yeah.
They've got no ability to get back out of that position. So all of our pull-ups will train through dead hang back into active hang.
We do what? Like just so think of just as we were talking about it on the flexibility mobility continuum, we were talking about strength through range. If Tim's going to want to, if it's Tim's pull-up goes the range that he's got is all the way from this dead position to active to pull, and then all the way down to active to passive, is he's going to be in control of that. There's a difference between coming down and falling into passive, just hang, and controlling yourself down, active. What I want you to be able to do is, you can choose, you got the option, you could come up with some reason why you want to do half rep pull-ups, that's fine, but as long as you've got the option to do the other thing, do you fall into passive hang, or can you choose to stop it and be active and then come into it? You in control of your body is strength through range, that's what we're after. That lets you do anything then that you want. Yeah?
I think it's interesting for you guys from a climbing perspective, because it comes into single arm active hang. If you're hanging and you've got passive strength, and that grip is just out of, that next handhold is just out of reach, what you need is that, and then you need to go. So that strength of being in there, that's where I want to be. But having some of that sets where you're working in and out of it is going to be the benefit. Like Jacko says, you have that option to move in and out of shape. By strengthening active, because because you're holding isometric strength. Mid-low traps, rhomboids that are starting to hold that scap in place, they're getting stimulation, where if you're out of it, you're not getting anything. They're just like, holiday. Cool.
Yeah.
We can pick that up in a minute.
Yeah. My thoughts now are, opportunity for me to look like an idiot, because this looks easy.
Jane Fonda moment.
But it's amazing. And then this, we'll look at the stability ball flag and then the vertical flag, and then want to leave then time to go, right, let's have a play around at all these different things that we've just gone through, see where we're at and see where we're going, because just seen a few people 3 minutes ago, their angle flag was a bit like, the arm was here, and then now it's starting to feel good, so we're getting some wins in terms of that connection. We'll find out whether the strength's in a bit, and then so give ourselves a little bit of time to just explore where we're at, and then we'll look at some of the harder strength progressions that some people can have a go at if they want. It might not be necessarily for everyone, like Tim said before. If we just try and do something that I can hold for 0.1 of a second, there's not really any benefit from a strength perspective. So what it allows you to do is get the whole position horizontally, and it's supporting your hip. You can move and make it harder and harder by having less of you on the ball. But it's allowing you to get in that fully horizontal position, a push and a pull, and that oblique pulling up. So let's break it down. Let's try and get this nailed down.
Because that bottom arm is going to be responsible for keeping that ball still in the right position.
Exposed to a lot of things. So what you might start with is feeling like your belly is really on the ball, because this bottom arm isn't opening up for you. So what I've got to do is push this shoulder through, so that as Tim was talking about, the head of that humerus driving into the body, yeah? So then I can get myself truly sideways, yeah? Rather than being here. So that's the first step. Then I've got to push and pull, so that not on the telephone with your ear by your shoulder. I've got to push that away, start to create some tension. Just like we talked about on those that were doing some handstand work, we're saying like, just start to test it, feel it, push, pull, start to test it before just jumping straight up. So I test it, can I feel, have I got something
in this triangle where I'm pushing with the bottom arm, pulling with the top. Okay, that starts to feel okay. Then can I start to dab my feet off the ground? Okay, so I've got this position now. I'm not looking like an idiot, maybe. But now my feet are too low, right? I'm not going to raise my feet up. I'm going to squeeze through that top side, squeeze my obliques to get the feet coming up. Oof. And that is on fire. Yeah, that is really activating. That is really going. And that push and pull is working hard. If I'm not pushing and pulling, again, haven't got that anchor to pull that hip up. But I know the feet raise, but the feet raise because of that connecting to what the arms are doing. Yeah, happy?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a great one. And well done. I didn't look like an idiot. And then let's look at the vertical flag. Where I'm going to start to then, can I look at suspending my whole body off the ground, but let's not worry about being horizontal. Let's just take out that hip for 1 minute, which is one of the hardest bits. We got that hip working on the angle flag and with the stability ball flag. So I've got to do exactly what we just said at that first point. I've got to get myself into a position where I open that shoulder up. Can I?
Position, guys.
Yeah. Thumb pointing down on both sides. Arm open, shoulder externally rotated, thumb pointing down. Overhand normal sort of pull-up grip on your top arm. And then I've got to get out of this shape where I open that bottom arm up. And then my job is to push and pull. Again, get that ear away from that shoulder. See that there? And then can I dab my feet off the ground? Yeah? You're suspending yourself. That triangle is working for you. Then we can worry about the strength to get completely out. Yeah? So let's have a play at those three. So much harder doing it slow. And then make that
I'll get Jacko in a second to take us through the last bit of progressions, but I just want to kind of touch on things at this point, just to kind of, this is where a lot of people need to spend a bit of time. It will show us the next little bits of where you can go after this. But just have a think about what you need to do if you want to go and do some work around it. And the human flag, I don't know if you found this, Greg, or not, but for Jack and I, all of a sudden, just one day it just clicked. And all of a sudden I could do it. And there was no real particular recipe. And actually, I did it for the first time. I got a shooting pain down my obliques. I had like DOMs for about 2 days afterwards, which I'd never had before, but then I could just do it. Like it sounds really unscientific, but it's literally like the hardwiring just connected, and all of a sudden I could do the movement, which is weird. But it will literally just come together one day. But the basics of it are find a position which is specific to the end result, which is the human flag. So we haven't talked a load about our framework, but if you look at, we base our movements, our exercises around movement and strength. So the movement being, can we create the right body position, mobility? I have to be able to get into the right shape. The movement patterning phase is like the stability ball flag. Can you just start to learn the push and pull and start to understand that the single arm active hang, the bottom arm push, and then on the other side of the framework, we'll send this out to you actually, is on applied strength, where it's then just like a specific movement or exercise which is very close to what you're trying to do. It's a very specific side of strength, which is where we might be doing the vertical flag holds for just pushing out 5 seconds at a time. Or we might do a tuck flag, or Jack will show some lowers in a minute. That's all really good, like they're all really good things to be able to do, so have that easy stuff in there, which is just the hang, the angle flag, feel what the shape is like. But then for everybody, you're going to have to go away and just do some work which is going to help to crank that top arm in and create that lift. So that for us would look like some single arm active hang, like capacity type work, so put some volume in it. Can you hang for 30 seconds double arm hang? Can you do 10-second hangs on a single? Your ability to hold that shape is massive. But I'd also be working through some wide grip pull-up work as well, which might feed into the next part of this afternoon of like how do I go to improve numbers in pull-ups or something like that. But if I'm going to go, rather than going narrow, can I start to work a bit wider? Think about where my hands are on the bar. Can I start in that position? Can I sequence it through? Can I pull? And then have I got the strength to be able to start to work through some range, back out, set. Each time it's less specific, but it's just global body strength or body weight strength training. It's going to start to put strength in the bank. The more strength you've got, the more you can play with, and actually calisthenics becomes a little bit more forgiving because you can kind of muscle some stuff to a certain degree if you've got strength to play with. Makes sense. So those are sort of takeaways. Find a position like this where you can feel it, but it's easier. Take some load off. 5-second holds. 4, 5, 6 sets. Reps in the bank. Or just hanging. That's why I think it's easy. Because once you can learn that pattern, it's just strength. Getting strong is not hard. Everyone can get strong for their body weight. It just requires the right stimulus to be able to do it.
Yeah. With Geva, have people felt that like that push and pull and that the obliques trying to connect in. We found a variation of something that we've done. It might be on the stability ball, it might be the angle fly, but something where your brain's starting to go, okay, I think I know what these 3 things happening, push, pull and oblique, I think I know what that feels like to do together. Mm-hmm. Then, as Tim says, making sure that we're working through some strength in general for what we need to do. We need to push and we need to pull, and then some of the specific work on like related to the flag that we've been showing you. Once you can actually, once you can get into a position where you can hold yourself there, we need to build up some time and attention there. So 1 second probably isn't going to be good enough. Building up to, can you hold that for 5 seconds and do it both sides. And then we want to start to look at what is it like when I bring then in the hip into the equation. Can I get up into a horizontal position, but I'm just going to bring, just then the simple progressions of what am I going to do in terms of varying my lever length. The longer the lever, the harder. So once I'm comfortable there, can I actually get up and hold a tuck position? Yeah. After that, can I hold a single leg position? We can straddle and we can bring them together. One thing that does help a lot of people when they get to a certain level to nail the sort of last bit of it would be using some of the eccentrics, where you'll go above horizontal. So horizontal hardest point, if we go below it, like in the vertical flag, or we go above it, it's easy. Those, if people have done, sometimes people when they've done pole fitness, you're used to going up on a pole and you can hang out in that position, and then lowering down towards horizontal to a point where you can actually hold it. And that could be tucked, that could be single leg, straddle or double, but we're just trying to get to a position where up here, I'll probably stay there for ages, but then can I lower down and control it? Yeah, it's getting used to me finding an angle where I can create enough time and attention to get the strength adaptation that I want. Horizontal hardest, slightly above, slightly below, easier. Yeah, and I can then start to work. When I do my isometrics, is it 15 degrees? Something like that?
Below, yeah.
If you hold it, whatever angle you hold at, you're gaining strength 15 degrees above and below that line, so the literature says. So even if I'm 15 degrees above horizontal, I am building some strength in that horizontal position. Over time, progressively, I'll get into there. What you don't want to do is kick up, fall down. No one got strong falling over. Yeah? So it's about finding a progression and level that you can get yourself strong at. Yeah? And that is the human flag.
Any questions?
Can you show again how you put up all the way up?
Is a bit of a, the top arm does pull. So you almost do a bit of a pull-up with the top arm. The bottom arm is an anchor. So you see I'm bent, and then I can let it straighten down from there. Yeah? But it's a bit of a pull-up, anchor down on the bottom side. And that is a lightning bolt. Those just on those getting up on those lowers, we can comfortably say that it's a tool that you can use. I have heard someone before say that is like the way to learn it, and you can't learn it without doing them. But Tim has never done, and I don't even know if you'd even. If we said, can you do that now? You don't do it. You've never done it.
To be honest, I don't like the position it puts my shoulder.
Yeah.
So I'm loading it into that position more, so they're safer for me.
But his flag is bang on. So it's not. You don't have to be able to go up to top and lower down. It's a tool that you can use to
to piece it together once you're strong enough, but it isn't that you don't have to do it because Tim never did it and it's like absolutely fine.